What's going on, guys? It's Mike for Sim Racing 604. Welcome to Assetto Corsa Competizione Build 2. So first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. I know your feed has been filled up with nothing but ACC Build 2 for the past few days, so thank you so much for taking the time to join me for this one. I just want to showcase what I think is the best experience so far in early access for ACC, which is the drying track special event. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So what it is from 10,000 feet is we're going to be driving. We'll start out on intermediate or wet tires with a wet track, and the track is going to dry out as we drive, so our tires start to overheat, and it makes for a very interesting drive. But it's really brilliantly done, and I think showcases kind of the best we've seen of ACC so far. So once again, thank you for joining me, and let's get out there on track. And what I'm going to do, guys, is just share my thoughts on Build 2 in sort of a more interesting way. I think there's been so many channels that have covered Build 2 of ACC. I don't see the point in me really making a dedicated review video, so I'll just kind of talk through my thoughts on ACC so far. Let's do it. Alright, guys, so here we are on track. Let's jump in the car and let's get this done. So as I said, it should take about 20 minutes, or maybe I didn't say that.
Alright mate, this session is about consistency. Try to be fast, but don't push it too much over the limit.
Onto the straightaway here. Been driving R Factor 2 all day, so this is a little bit of an adjustment in terms of handling and force feedback. So as you can see, very wet track so far. Traction control set very, very high. I will turn that down shortly. So guys, what do I think of ACC Build 2? Well, I mean, first and foremost, actually let me turn my traction control down here. The VR, I know everybody's been hyping VR, and you know how I love the saying, no VR, no buy. Well, it no longer applies to ACC. So they've implemented VR in a very rudimentary form, and I gotta be honest, I've seen a few comments where it's like, well, they shouldn't have released it, it's too preliminary. I have to sort of agree. Well, actually, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence, to be honest. It's so early that I wouldn't, if I was a developer, I wouldn't want my VR judged by where it's at right now. But at the same time, I think it does help to sort of silence the, not critics, but the skeptics who thought, you know, how is the VR implementation going to be? Is it even going to exist? Well, yeah, it exists, and now we have it. But it's not great in its current state. There's no keyboard and mouse support. You gotta, you know, fire up a D-pad to make that happen, you know, to make any sort of menu control happen. So that kind of stinks, and it doesn't look great, and it's a real resource hog. I know James over at Gamer Muscle, he did an epic 8-hour stream on it, and he was trying to get it set up, and he did eventually get it looking pretty good, but it took a lot of configuring, and even at its best, it didn't look great. And he runs a 1080 Ti. I run a 1080. I tried it. Normally on my settings, I keep the settings pretty high in ACC because I think it looks really beautiful. Ooh, missed that corner by a mile. I keep the settings pretty high because I think it looks great, and normally I run 70-80 frames per second, somewhere around there, and in VR I was getting down in the mid-40s. For those of you who own VR, you know that that's down into the totally unacceptable levels. Most people, like myself, like to shoot for, whoa, come on Mike, like to shoot for 90 frames per second. And usually cap it at that, but certainly you'd want to accept no less than 60. So running 40, it sucks. It really sucks. I got not fully motion sick, but I wasn't feeling very good. I got a bit of a headache from trying to run it, so I turned the settings way down, and you know, same effect. So it's not great. It's not in its finished form by any means. And again, massive grain of salt here, guys. I realize it's early access, and I realize we're lucky to have it at all. But I can understand where you're coming from if you think they just should not have released the VR at all. I get it. Nice to have, nice to try it out, but it's so early that, again, I wouldn't dare judge the title by that. If I was a developer, I wouldn't want my title to be judged by that. So perhaps it's just a shade too early on their part is what I feel. But anyway, they promised it to us and they delivered. So we now have VR in ACC, even if it's in a very rudimentary form. Probably the second most common question is, did they improve the force feedback? If you guys watched my Build 2 wish list, and I think about 6,000 of you have, so thank you so much for your support on that. One of them on my wish list, one of my hopes for the Build 2 was a few more sliders to adjust the force feedback in a little more detail. And we got that, so I can't remember exactly what the sliders are. I think one of them is some sort of active dampening or something. And it's getting good reviews. I've been pretty happy. I think as AccuForce users, we're pretty lucky when it comes to ACC. I think we had it better than most wheels in terms of the force feedback so far in the preliminary stages of Assetto Corsa Competizione. So being an AccuForce user, I wasn't too dissatisfied with the force feedback in the first build. But it certainly got even better, and as AccuForce users, we can run SimCommander software in front of the game, basically, and allows us to customize more parameters of the force feedback, but I don't even need that. I'm running without it right now, and it feels pretty darn good, so you can feel a lot of road textures and things like that, so definitely coming a long way. If they can continue to make improvements like that in the force feedback throughout early access, we're going to have a pretty good feeling game, and it's already pretty good, so I have high hopes for that. What else do we want to talk about? Well, oh, by the way, let's talk a bit more about force feedback. Excuse me. So the force feedback the experience has been varied wildly from wheel user to wheel user. I happen to still own my old G29 and T300, so I want to get those set up on the rig and just try them out, see how bad that force feedback is. Again, I'm probably lucky to own the AccuForce. AccuForce owners seem to be having the best experience so far with ACC, and Sim Experience even went so far as to add ACC as a game within the SimCommander software, which is really good of them. So it allows us to start customizing the parameters to our liking. But yeah, I want to get that G29 and T300 set up so that I can start experimenting with different wheels and just see how bad it is, because some of you are saying that it's virtually unplayable, in much more harsh words than that. So I want to see for myself just how bad it is, so I hope to have those wheels set up in the next day or two and get somewhat of a, not a comparison, but just a sampling across, across different wheels. So as you can see here, the track's starting to dry out. There used to be puddles when we were starting out, and those are drying out. I'm driving really poorly, focusing more on what I'm saying than where I'm driving. But grip is starting to come at a premium. You can see the front left tire is starting to go yellow. That's certainly still within tolerances, but that's pretty soon going to turn red. I've tried this a number of times. I've never actually finished it. Each time I end up somewhere in the grass. So hopefully I'll be able to, even though I'm not paying full attention to the driving, hopefully I'll be able to pull something off. So another big one that we should talk about is the new car and track. I am on board, of course, with the Bentley GT Continental GT, that is, at Misano. So I did a little track guide for this about a week ago, and I used the R Factor 2 version, and this is certainly the R Factor 2 version, to its credit, was just a free mod, but it was very good. This one's even better. This is a very nice track. The dimensions of the R Factor 2, if you care, track seem to be fairly consistent with this. I'm assuming this is a laser scan version, so whoever did the R Factor 2 version deserves big credit, because it's the same track. Nothing feels really off in terms of dimensions, so did a great job with that. And yeah, Misano was growing on me, but what grew on me even faster was this Bentley. I always think of Bentleys not as race cars. I did it again. Come on, Mike. I always think of Bentleys not as race cars, but as cars that extremely rich people drive. But this thing actually handles really well. On a dry track with traction control turned up and ABS turned up, it borders on boring, I gotta say. But if you give yourself a reasonable amount of credit for your driving skills and start to turn some of those driving aids down, it's a very nice car. Much better than I thought it would be. And yeah, it's kind of cool. I like that they added it. So no strong tendencies either way. A little bit of oversteer perhaps, but nothing too bad. And glad to have it. And Misano itself, really fun track. It drives slow. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the slowest track on the Blancpain circuit, or series, however you say that. But it doesn't feel so slow that, you know, it takes away from the fun. It's a lot of, you know, momentum-based cornering, and yeah, just overall very good. So I think they did a good job with this ad. Any new race special events, including this one, are very cool. They did a really nice job with that, so keeps you entertained. Of course, I got bored pretty quick with running the Lamborghini at Nürburgring GP in Build 1, but I've been having so much fun with Misano and the Bentley that I haven't actually gone to Nürburgring once. I thought I would try this car at Nürburgring, but I haven't actually done that yet because I've been having so much fun with this particular car track combo and those special events. Woo, there we go. In terms of what's coming next, Build 3 I think is the most significant. So what we're going to get is multiplayer. And of course this game is going to be, in my opinion, not much without its multiplayer. I shouldn't say that. I think it's probably going to be the best GT3 game you can have. But until they start to offer up either expansion packs, DLC, updates with new cars, oh boy, I think running Blancpain only will start to get a bit tedious after a while in single player mode. I think sort of building your driver profile up over time will be where this game really shines. Will it be better than iRacing? I know it's being touted by some as the iRacing killer. I don't personally believe that. For all of iRacing's shortcomings, I think they're still the king of multiplayer. I really do believe that, and they probably will hold on to that crown for some time. It's a tough one. Hey, I'm number 1,000 exactly in leaderboard 5. Where am I on the track here? Too much talking, Mike. Come on. Yeah, it's really difficult to unseat iRacing. It's just what they do. Multiplayer is what they do. They don't even really have a single player mode to speak of. So how do you beat somebody at something when it's all they do, right? It's just like when Conor McGregor boxed Floyd Mayweather. Of course he's gonna lose that fight. Floyd Mayweather knows nothing but boxing. Conor McGregor knows fighting overall. So it's just what they do. And again, I think unseating iRacing as sort of the de facto multiplayer will be a very tall order. I think in terms of the structure of their multiplayer, I think they have it, but yeah, there's no feeder leagues or anything like that. Everything's just going to be GT3. So kind of difficult to build a complete, you know, multiplayer experience without that. And what else did we want to talk about? I think that's pretty much it. By the way, did you guys see Kudos? I'm not vain enough to think they watch my videos, but I was a bit suspicious. I made a big deal. I was joking in my video about things sim racers never agree on. And I mentioned that no VR, no buy really irks me. And lo and behold, the #1 change in the Kudos changelog for build 2 of Assetto Corsa Competizione is fixed, quote unquote, no VR, no buy. That's, again, I don't think they probably know I exist, but if they do, and that was aimed at me, nice troll, Kudos, nice troll. Yeah. What else do we want to talk about besides my poor driving? Yeah, just overall really fun. So I guess, guys, this is the sort of last... come on. If I do that one more time, I swear I will do nothing about it, but I will just swear. This is your last chance to sort of decide whether or not this game is worth €24.99. And if you want my opinion of it, yeah, get in. Get in. I think the basis of this game, everything we've seen so far, is very positive. Sure, there's, you know, a lot to work on, and, you know, you got to take it with a grain of salt, everything you're seeing so far is early access. But the way I look at it is, I see this being a significant enough player in the sim community that probably most of us are going to buy it anyway. So why not get in on the ground floor? You know what I mean? It's going to be part of your collection most likely anyway. So get in at the cheapest price. It'll eventually go on sale after this, but I think, you know, it's interesting to sort of track the progression.
5 minutes to go.
Okay, cool. It's interesting to sort of track the progression of the title and just see how things are coming along. And I think overall, again, things are moving along in a very positive vein. There's some things they need to work on, you know, they still need to finish up their force feedback. I would say if this was the 70% mark on their force feedback, if they improve this by about 30%, I don't think I would have very many complaints about it. It's close, it's not there all the way, but it's close. And yeah, just got to continue to develop that. I did it again. Time for some swearing. Graphically, it looks beautiful. For some reason, Misano doesn't look nearly as good to me as Nürburgring GP did. I remember watching the replays and thinking, holy smokes, this is in my top 3. It was as good as Project Cars 2 or Gran Turismo Sport, in my opinion, or at least, you know, in their neighborhood. But yeah, Misano for some reason just doesn't pop the same as Nürburgring GP. I don't know what the difference is, but anyway. So it looks like we're actually going to finish this special event. Actually, speaking of finish, I didn't finish that thought. So yeah, I think overall they're in a good spot. Kudos has done a good job to date. I think going early access was a good idea. Get feedback from the community. And yeah, like I said, you're gonna probably buy this title anyway. Why not just buy it at the early access price? I had somebody comment the other day. What was the comment? Was to the effect of, if you want to totally waste your money, that's the only time you should buy ACC. I don't agree with that at all. I think this is already, you know, in this stage, better than some of the sims we see on the market. So, or some of the racing games at least. So, I think for €24.99, it's a good deal. Sound-wise, sounds really good. I was, again, more impressed by the sound of the Lamborghini than I have been with the Bentley. But still very good. If you guys get a chance, go look up, come on Mike, the Lamborghini GT3 onboards, and then compare it to ACC. It is perfect. They absolutely nailed it. I haven't had much of a chance. I don't know if I've seen any onboards from the Bentley, but I'm assuming they nailed it as well. That's probably the biggest advantage of only having one race series, is that you get to study it inside and out. You get to learn, you know, the physics of the cars. You're not spreading yourself too thin, trying to worry about, you know, what were the physics of a F1 car from the 1960s at the same time. And no offense to Kunos, I think they did a great job with Assetto Corsa 1, but it does spread you pretty thin. I think you're trying to do so many things, whereas if you stick to one race series, you should theoretically be able to nail it. And I know the counter argument to that would be, well, how come F1 2018 is not perfect? Or any of the previous F1 games, and fair enough, but I think that might be a different case, because Codemasters is not inclined very much to make a perfect racing sim. I'm sure they'd love to make the perfect racing game, but I'm sure the, you know, exact physics of an F1 car aren't their highest priority. They want those game sales, they don't want the sim sales. And as somebody who works in business, I get that. I get that. They got shareholders to please as well. So, play to the largest market. But anyway, I think Kunos, with sim in mind and a very narrow focus, I think they're going to do an amazing job with this. And everything is on track for greatness. So yeah, oh no, that was painful. So yeah, for my recommendation, buy it. Definitely buy it. I don't think, even if you think, I'm not that impressed so far, and I know, like, James from Gamer Muscle, again, to cite him, I'm a big fan of his, so I watch a lot of his streams, and I know he's not very impressed with ACC overall, and, you know, that's cool, but I am, more or less, if I was scoring it, it's probably a 60 out of 100, and I know that's a pretty conservative number. Doesn't make you want to rush out and buy it, but I think considering it's early access, if I had to speculate, I think they'll probably get that up to you know, up into the 80s. I think this is going to be a really good title, guys. I'm not going to lie. I think it's going to be a really good title by the time everything's fully fleshed out and they get feedback from the community through early access. I look forward to great things from this title. So that's pretty much it. So we're finishing up the last lap. I can't believe I've been babbling on about this game for 20 minutes. To the 3 people who actually listened to this whole thing, thank you so much. And the rest of you who just skipped ahead to see where I'm finishing in the world ranks. Top 800. Oh yeah, self high five. What's the trophy? That stupid curve messes me up every time. See, I blame the curve there. It's got nothing to do with the driver, right? It's that track that changes every lap. Yeah, this is a really fun special event. Best so far in ACC. Oh, and I'm going to set a new PB. Does that move me up? 708 overall. I think that's it. Why am I still driving?
Session is over.
There we go. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.